Chapter 42. Then he brought me forth into the outer court, the way toward the north, and he brought me into the chamber that was over against the separate place, and which was over against the building, toward the north, even to the front of the length of 100 cubits, with the door on the north, and the breadth of 50 cubits, over against the 20 cubits which belonged to the inner court, and over against the pavement which belonged to the outer court, with gallery against gallery in 3 stories. And before the chambers was a walk of 10 cubits breadth inward, a way of 1 cubit, and their doors were toward the north. Now the upper chambers were shorter, for the galleries took away from these more than from the lower and the middlemost in the building. For they were in 3 stories, and they had no pillars, as the pillars of the courts. Therefore room was taken away from the lowest and the middlemost in comparison with the ground. And the wall that was without by the side of the chambers, toward the outer court, in front of the chambers, the length thereof was 50 cubits. For the length of the chambers that were toward the outer court was 50 cubits, and lo, before the temple were 100 cubits. And from under these chambers was the entry on the east side, as one goes into them from the outer court. And from under these chambers was the entry on the east side, as one goeth into them from the outer court. In the breadth of the wall of the court toward the east, before the separate place, and before the building, there were chambers, with a way before them, like the appearance of the chambers which were toward the north, as long as they, and as broad as they, with all their goings out, and according to their fashions, as their doors. So were also the doors of the chambers that were toward the south. There was a door in the head of the way, even the way directly before the wall, toward the way from the east, as one entereth into them. Then said he unto me, The north chambers and the south chambers, which are before the separate place, they are the holy chambers, where the priests that are near unto the Lord shall eat the most holy things. There shall they lay the most holy things, and the meal offering, and the sin offering, and the guilt offering, for the place is holy. And when the priests enter in, then shall they not go out of the holy place into the outer court, but there they shall lay their garments wherein they minister, for they are holy, and they shall put on other garments, and shall approach to that which pertaineth to the people. Now when he had made an end of measuring the inner house, he brought me forth by the way of the gate, whose prospect is toward the east, and he measured it round about. And he measured the east side with the measuring reed, 500 reeds, with the measuring reed round about. He measured the north side 500 reeds, with the measuring reed round about. He measured the south side 500 reeds, with the measuring reed. He turned about to the west side, and measured 500 reeds with the measuring reed. He measured it by the 4 sides. He had a wall round about, the length 500, and the breadth 500, to make a separation between that which was holy and that which was common. All right, let's go back up, verse 1. Now, we remember yesterday we were still measuring or laying out the temple. We were still laying out, measuring the temple, and this is the inner portion of the whole grounds, we'll call them. And we went through the entrance and all this, and we had the side chambers that we had measured out, and all the overlaying of the wood which we had determined, and these cherubim which had their 2 faces, and they was looking at the palm trees, and all this goes together. We explained as we went through we're going to be continuing in this. We're going to be continuing now in these measurements as we are going to finish up the interior and touch on the out as we go outward to the outer court. Verse 1. Then he brought me forth into the outer court, the way toward the north, and he brought me into the chamber that was over against the separate place, and which was over against the building toward the north. Then he brought me forth into the outer court, and this outer court is going to be that court which goes outward from where we're at, and it is this way toward the north, and this north is going to be this judgment, this way that looks towards this judgment. And he brought me into this chamber, this things, as we have said, this chamber, we'll find out that we've pointed out, this chamber here is that word lishka, and it's that room, it's that little enclosure there, that was over against the separate place, that was beside the separate place, even that hallowed place that's set aside, and which was over against, or over beside the building, or against the building, this part of the structure that was towards the north, or that portion that's towards the judgment, even to the front of the length of 100 cubits, and the door on the north, and the breadth of 50 cubits. Even this beginning now was this determination of a judgment measured out, and with its openings, with its goings in and out on the north, this place of judgment was this used as the grace of the law in its measurement, and that's what it will be used for. 3, over beside the 20 cubits, or including the 20 cubits which belongs to the inner court, and over against the pavement which belongs to the outer court, with gallery against gallery in 3 stories. Now, including this 20 cubits which belongs to the inner court, that 20 cubits, that witness now, this law, measured out, and it belongs to that which is within, that enclosure within, and also it includes the pavement, that lighted way which belongs to the outer court, or this outer enclosure, your outer enclosure, with the gallery against gallery in 3 rows, and this gallery against its gallery, we'll find out, are these that take away, it's not the porch, we'll find out, it is that which is before the room, and those which take away from the chambers, that it is that the way, it's that way before them, and in the 3 stories, because this is its complete, this 3 is complete, and these stories is its height, and that's how high it is this complete. It's complete in its height. 4, and before the chambers was a walk of 10 cubits, breadth inward, a way of 1 cubit, and their doors were toward the north. And before these chambers, that's what we're talking about, these things we've pointed out as we've went, that are stacked up in their 3 and their complete height. There's this walk, or this path of 10 cubits, and that's the law measured out, and its use is inward, and we use it for this inward, and it's outside that, a way of 1 cubit, and this was the path of, in the beginning, being measured out, and that's what it all stands for, is this law was that path in the beginning when it was measured out for the use inwardly as a law outwardly, and its openings, its goings in and out, were toward judgment. 5. Now the upper chambers were shorter, for the galleries took away from these more than from the lower and the middlemost in the building. Now these upper chambers, these things we've pointed out that are higher and higher, they were shorter. They were smaller because the galleries took away from these, and these galleries are these paths even. These paths because we'll see they were stacked on top, one upon the other, and the walkway or the path that was before each one was on top of the one below. 6. For they were in 3 stories, and they had no pillars as the pillars of the courts. Therefore room was taken away from the lowest and the middlemost in comparison with the ground. For they were in 3 stories. There was in their complete height, their complete determination, and they had no pillars as the pillars of the courts. There was no pillars. These pillars are those things which are stand up to, and what they do is help support. They don't these higher chambers, these higher things, don't have these supports as did the courts, those enclosures that are below. Therefore room, the area of the chamber, was taken away from the lowest and the middlemost. So as you went up, they got these chambers, these things got smaller, but the path stayed the same that was before them. So they each one had to get a little smaller as they went up. 7. And the wall was without by the side of the chambers toward the outer court in front of the chambers. The length thereof was 50 cubits. And this wall, this thing that separates, was on the outside. It was on the outside, made plain by these things we have pointed out, towards this outer enclosure in the beginning of those things we pointed out. The length thereof was for the grace of the law in its measurement. And this thing which encloses, see, or this thing which separates, and we're going to find out it's the law that separates. See, it's on the outside of the chambers toward the outer court, towards this outer enclosure. It's towards this outer enclosure. It's this thing that separates, this thing we pointed out and made plain. It's in front. It's in the front of these chambers. It's in the front. It is in front of these beginnings. And it's this walkway, see, it's this walkway of the law in its measurement, even in the beginning. And it was for the grace of the law in its measurement. 8. For the length of the chambers that were toward the outer court was 50 cubits. And lo, before the temple were 100 cubits. And the length and the determination of these things we've pointed out, we'll find, that were towards this outer court was 50 cubits. And that's what they was determined for, the length of these things that was before the chambers was grace of the law measured out. But now, before the temple, before this sanctified place, this holy place, they were 100 cubits. And this was for judgment, see, in its measurement. 9. And from under these chambers was the entry on the east side, as one goeth into them from the outer court. And from under these chambers, so as you come from underneath these chambers, these things we've pointed out, was this entry on the east side. And this east side, once again, is where the sun comes up. It is the way of enlightenment being made plain as one goes into them from the outer court. So as you come in to the inward court, this inward enclosure, from the outward enclosure, you would enter in underneath these things that we have made plain, even the law. You would enter in under the law. 10. In the breadth of the wall of the court, toward the east, before the separate place, and before the building, there were chambers. And in the breadth of the wall, this use of this that separates, the separation of the court, that which is outward from that which is inward, was toward the east. It was toward this way of enlightenment, toward this way of the beginning of understanding, where the sun comes up. And it was before the separate place and before the building there were chambers. And that was what this wall of the court was. It was this way that was toward that separates, see, that from the outside, from that from the inside, was this understanding of the law. And it was that which that was before, that which stood before that separate place, that most holy place, and before the building. It was before that structure, that which was built there, were these chambers, and these that were pointed out and made clear. 11. With the way before them, like the appearance of the chambers which were toward the north, as long as they, and as broad as they, were all their goings out, and according to their fashions, and as their doors, with the way before them. See, this way before them, and it was this measurement of this way, this lighted way that was before them, we'll find, was this law. It's what it represents, even in the beginning. It was just the same in appearance. It looked just the same to these chambers that was towards the north, as long as they, see, for the same determination, these judgments, as broad for the same use, and all their goings out, and according to their fashions, just like they were, as their doors, 12, so were also the doors of the chambers that were toward the south. There was a door in the head of the way, even the way directly before the wall, toward the way from the east, as one entereth into them. So these doors and their doors were also the same as the doors of the chambers that was towards the south. So these doors of judgment, see, these openings, these going in and out of judgments, and these things we pointed out, are just like the other side. See, this way that's towards the south, this way that's towards this witness, and all these things that we've pointed out, was this same, the door. See, they both going to have a door in the head of the way, and this is that way that goes in and out. Both of them have the same way to go in and out. There's a door, an opening at the end of their end, and even the wall, even at the head of the way, and even the way directly before the wall. And that's that wall, that's place of separation down there at the end, toward the way from the east. And that is that way where the sun comes up, and this enlightenment, this understanding even comes, as one enters into them. Even as you go into them, to enter into those, actually the two ways are the same. 13. Then said he unto me, the north chambers and the south chambers, which are before the separate place, they are the holy chambers, where the priests that are near unto the Lord shall eat the most holy things. There shall they lay the most holy things, and the meal offering, and the sin offering, and the guilt offering, for the place is holy. Then said he unto me, the north chambers, these north chambers, these judgments that we've pointed out and made clear, these rooms even of these judgments, and these south chambers, even the rooms of these south chambers, these things that we've pointed out, made clear, these things of witness, which are before the separate place, which they are before this separate place, this which is separated. It is holy. It we'll find it is most holy. They are the holy chambers. They are these hallowed chambers. These are those things that are hallowed. They're set aside. See, these chambers, these things we've pointed out, where the priests that are near unto the Lord shall eat the most holy things. There shall they lay the most holy things, and the meal offering, and the sin offering, and the guilt offering, for the place is holy. And that's what these things that we've pointed out are for. See, they are set aside, and that means they are hallowed. No one can handle them. No one can touch them, except for, as we'll find out, they are the holy chambers. They are these hallowed things. See, these laws of God, where the priests that are near unto the Lord shall eat the most holy things. And this is where they shall devour, they shall take in these things that are most holy, these things that are hallowed. There shall they lay, there shall they set aside, see, put up, put away. And that's what it was in the beginning. See, they took all these things, all this hallowed things that were set aside that men took and stole and took out of, and they put it into it, these chambers. And they laid the most holy things. They took and laid these, caused them to rest there. And the meal offerings, see, these meal offerings, and these meal offerings are those things that were ground in the harvest. See, and that's what they represent. That's where they'll lay those. This sin offering, even that is offered for the sin, this is the pollution. This is all the sin and the guilt offering. See, that which you have brought in your understanding of your guilt. For this place is holy. It's hallowed. It's set aside. It has a purpose. It has a reason. 14. When the priest enter in, then shall they not go out of the holy place into the outer court, but there they shall lay their garments wherein they minister, for they are holy. And they shall put on other garments, and shall approach to that which pertains to the people. And when the priest enter in, and when the priest go within this, then shall they not go out of this holy place in the outer court. And they shall not go out, we'll find, of this hallowed place, this place that's set aside and sanctified. They won't go out of it into the outer court, into this, we'll find out, this outer enclosure. But there they shall lay their garments, and there shall they shall cause to rest their coverings, see, wherein they minister unto God in the house of God, for they are holy. See, these garments are hallowed. They're set aside, and they shall put on other garments, but they shall put on these other coverings, and shall approach to that which pertains to the people. And they'll put on these other garments, we'll find out, these other coverings, these other understandings even, and shall approach to that which pertains to the people. Because, see, God has made a separation. God has made a separation. And that the law is that separation. And these ones that take to know how to handle these are these ones that are given the right to have these garments. These are Levi. This is Zadok. These are the righteous, of the ones who have held to the law, we'll find. 15. Now when he had made an end of measuring the inner house, he brought me forth by the way of the gate, whose prospect is towards the east, and he measured it round about. Now, when he had made an end and completed this measuring of the inner house, and this is that to determine it for its use, see, and its determinations, this inner dwelling, he brought me forth by the way, or that path, that way of the gate of judgments, whose that place where they gather for judgments even, whose prospect is toward the east. And it's looking towards the east. Its face is towards the east. Those things are going to be made plain, or towards the east, even there, where the sun, once again, comes up and brings enlightenment. To measure it and to determine now, it is all around. 16, and he measured the east side with the measuring reed, 500 reeds, with the measuring reed round about. And he determined the east side, or an understanding being made plain, with the measuring reed. And that measuring reed, we'll find out that reed that determines the measurement. See, that reed that determines the measurement. And we'll go back to the length of that reed. How long was that reed? It was 6 cubits. Each cubit now was a cubit and a hand's breadth. So it was the work of man, see, it was the work of man, even man's work in its measurements, each reed. And these 500 reeds was that grace could be in the judgments of these measurements, and that was that measuring reed. 17, he measured the north side, 500 reeds, the measuring reed round about. And he measured the north side, that side of the judgments that's made plain, even with the same reed. He measured it, 500 reeds. And that's, once again, that's the grace of judgments in its measurements. 18, he measured the south side, 500 reeds, with the measuring reed. And he measured the south side. He determined the south side, those things that serve as a witness, that they could be made plain. 500 reeds. These, once again, with the grace and judgment, was it measured out. 19, and he turned about on the west side and measured 500 reeds with the measuring reed. And he turns about to the west side. That west side, that's where the sun goes down, see, and that serves that side, all this where the night came in, darkness was coming, and he measured 500 reeds with the measuring reed. And it was grace, even in the judgments of that measurement, and it was equal, we'll find. 20, he measured it by the 4 sides, and it had a wall round about, the length 500, and the breadth 500, to make a separation between that which was holy and that which was common. And he measured it, and he determined it, see, by its 4 sides, and that it was the work of God being made plain. And it had a wall. There was a separation all the way around. And it was determined for grace in its judgments, and it was used for grace in its judgments to make a separation between that which is hallowed, that which is set aside and belongs to God, and that which is common, that which men have. And that's what the use, and that's what the law was for in its beginnings. Turn and return. Let's move forward to chapter 43.